Did you have the chance to be Marcellus Wallace?
No. Actually, the part that Sam played, Quentin wrote that with me in mind.
Hollywood knows Laurence Fishburne as a man of quiet power and deep wisdom, an actor who commands the screen with just a look. But behind that calm exterior is a warrior forged in the fires of Hollywood betrayal. For every iconic role, there was a hidden battle, a secret war fought against liars, backstabbers, and people who tried to erase him from his own story. These are the 5 people who pushed him to his limit and who he came to see as truly evil. Quentin Tarantino.
What actually ended up happening was, I started writing. All right, so I was gonna do this World War II film next.
That's
right?
Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds.
In the early 1990s, Laurence Fishburne was on top of the world. He was a true Hollywood star, fresh off a powerful performance as Ike Turner in the movie What's Love Got to Do with It? That role was so intense and real that it earned him an Oscar nomination. Everyone in the industry wanted to work with him. At the same time, a new director named Quentin Tarantino had written a script that was the talk of the town. It was called Pulp Fiction, and the role of the cool, thoughtful hitman, Jules Winfield, was destined to become a legend. Tarantino knew who he wanted for the part. His first and only choice was Laurence Fishburne. The offer was made, and it seemed like a perfect match. But Fishburne turned it down. For years, the story that everyone heard came directly from Quentin Tarantino himself. The director told interviewers a simple story. He claimed that Fishburne rejected the role because it was not the lead part. Tarantino said that Fishburne's agents told him he was too big of a star to take a supporting role and that he had to be the main name on the movie poster. This story made Fishburne sound like he had a huge ego, like he was just another actor who cared more about billing than art. It was a good story for Tarantino to tell, but it was not the truth. The real reason Fishburne said no was much deeper and revealed the kind of man he truly was. Years later, Fishburne set the record straight. He explained that his problem was not with the size of the part, but with the message of the movie. He felt that Pulp Fiction was careless in how it showed heroin use. He described the film's attitude toward the as cavalier and a little loose. In one of the movie's most famous scenes, a character is brought back to life with a shot of adrenaline to the heart after an overdose. Fishburne believed that scenes like this made the dangerous world of heroin use look attractive and cool. For him, it was never just about his character. It was about what the entire movie was saying to the audience. He had strong principles and could not be part of a project that he felt glorified such a destructive. This was a moral decision, not a career one. Fishburne had a history of turning down major roles if he felt the story was not right. He also passed on playing the character Radio Raheem in Spike Lee's famous movie Do the Right Thing. He felt the movie took creative licenses with the plot that just did not feel right or true to him. But Quentin Tarantino never told anyone about Fishburne's moral stand. Instead of respecting his principles, Tarantino created a different story, a lie that he told the public for years. He painted Fishburne as just another actor with a big ego. This was a deep betrayal. Tarantino took a private, principled decision and twisted it into a public story that made Fishburne look bad. It was a calculated move from a director known for telling great stories, but this time, the story came at the expense of a good man's reputation. The role of Jules Winfield eventually went to another actor, Samuel L. Jackson. The part made him a global superstar, and his career exploded. Fishburne said he was happy he passed on the job, sticking to his beliefs. But the damage from Tarantino's story was done. And in a cruel twist of fate, the very movie that Fishburne rejected on principle would soon lead to another, even more painful betrayal from a man who cared only about money and buzz. Andy Vajna.
Szerintem a mi rádiónk nem erről szól, tehát ez fura volt a Balástól, de...
Even after turning down one of the biggest movies of the decade, Laurence Fishburne was still a Hollywood A-lister. His talent was undeniable, and big offers kept coming his way. The next major blockbuster on the table was Die Hard with a Vengeance, the third movie in the hugely popular action series. The producers wanted Fishburne to star alongside Bruce Willis as the smart and reluctant hero, Zeus Carver. It was another role that seemed perfect for him, and Fishburne was ready to take it. Negotiations began with the production company, Synergy, which was run by a powerful producer named Andy Vajna. The talks went well, and according to Fishburne, they reached a deal. He had a verbal agreement to play the part. In the world of Hollywood, a verbal agreement with a major producer is supposed to be as good as a signed contract. Fishburne believed the role was his. He was preparing to join one of the biggest movie franchises in the world. But he had not counted on the ruthless nature of Andy Vajna, a man whose promises were worthless. The moment of betrayal happened at the famous Cannes Film Festival in France in 1994. Andy Vajna was there to do business, and one of the films premiering was Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. Vajna went to the screening and, like many others, was completely blown away by Samuel L. Jackson's incredible performance as Jules. He saw the massive buzz surrounding Jackson and saw an opportunity. In that moment, his handshake deal with Laurence Fishburne meant nothing. Without a second thought for the agreement he had made, Vajna immediately offered the role of Zeus to Samuel L. Jackson. It was a cold and calculated business decision. Jackson was the hot new thing, and Vajna wanted that heat for his movie. He completely disregarded his promise to Fishburne, leaving him stunned and without a job. This was not just a misunderstanding, it was a direct backstab. Fishburne had been replaced because a producer saw a shinier object. But Laurence Fishburne was not a man to be pushed around. He had been wronged, and he knew it. He decided to fight back in a way that Hollywood rarely sees. He sued Andy Vajna's company, Synergy, for breach of contract. This was a bold move that could have damaged his career, but Fishburne stood his ground. The lawsuit moved forward, and things got serious. At one point, even Bruce Willis was issued a legal summons because Fishburne alleged he was present during a key meeting about the role. The case was set for a trial in August 1997, with Fishburne seeking damages of $1.75 million. Just before the trial was about to begin, Synergy settled. They knew they were in the wrong. The company paid Laurence Fishburne $750,000 to drop the lawsuit. This was not just a small payment to make a problem go away. It was a massive admission of guilt. The settlement was legal proof that Fishburne had been telling the truth all along. He had been betrayed, and now he had been proven right in a court of law. The irony was painful. The very movie he had rejected for moral reasons, Pulp Fiction, had launched the career of the actor who was used to betray him. It showed Fishburne that in Hollywood, principles could cost you, but fighting for your rights could win you justice. He had faced down a powerful producer and won, but it was a bitter victory that taught him a hard lesson about who he could trust. The Wachowskis.
I have yet to meet a color or pattern clash that did not make me bubbly with joy.
For millions of people around the world, Laurence Fishburne is Morpheus. When he first appeared in The Matrix in 1999, with his calm voice, cool sunglasses, and deep belief in the One, he became more than just a character. He became an icon. Morpheus was the heart and soul of the original trilogy. He was the teacher, the leader, and the man whose faith held the entire story together. Fishburne's performance was so powerful that it was impossible to imagine the world of The Matrix without him. His legacy was forever tied to that role. So when news broke that a fourth Matrix movie was being made, called The Matrix Resurrections, fans were thrilled. The idea of returning to that world with the original cast was a dream come true. Keanu Reeves was coming back as Neo. Carrie-Anne Moss was returning as Trinity. It seemed certain that Laurence Fishburne would be there too, ready to guide them once again. But then came the shocking announcement. Fishburne was not in the movie. The man who was the very backbone of the franchise had been left out. The way Fishburne found out was just as shocking as the news itself. It was not a respectful phone call from the directors, the Wachowskis. It was not a private conversation about the new direction of the story. Instead, he was simply not invited. In interviews, Fishburne could not hide his confusion and hurt. He told the world that he had no idea why he was not asked back. When asked about it, he said, "You would have to ask director Lana Wachowski why, because he did not have an answer for that." He made it clear that he would have loved to play Morpheus again and had even offered to return, but the filmmakers turned him down. They never even bothered to give him an explanation. This was a level of disrespect that was hard to believe. Eventually, an official reason for his absence emerged, and it was as flimsy as it was insulting. The creators claimed that the character of Morpheus had been killed off in a video game from 2005 called The Matrix Online. For the filmmakers to hide behind an obscure piece of lore from a 15-year-old video game that most fans had never even played was ridiculous. In Hollywood, writers change stories and bring characters back from the dead all the time. If they had wanted Laurence Fishburne in the movie, they could have easily found a way to write him in. The fact that they chose to stick to this weak excuse showed that they simply did not want him there. It was a conscious decision to exclude him from his own legacy. This was the ultimate betrayal. The very people who had created his most famous role treated him like he was disposable. They erased him from the next chapter of the story without the common courtesy of a conversation. A new, younger version of Morpheus was cast, played by actor Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, adding another layer to the insult. They had replaced a legend with a copy. For Laurence Fishburne, this was not just about a movie role. It was about seeing his life's work treated with cold indifference. The creators of The Matrix had shown him that in their eyes, the man who gave their world its soul was no longer important. The evil was not in a creative choice, but in the cold, heartless way they dismissed one of the key artists who made their creation a masterpiece. Francis Ford Coppola Long.
But we're in a position where we have all the people and we're working on it, and we want to continue working on it. So each week you say, well, let's go another week, and you're sort of financing it yourself.
Before he was Morpheus, Laurence Fishburne was just a kid with a big dream. At only 14 years old, he knew he wanted to be an actor more than anything. He was so determined that he lied about his age to get a part in what would become one of the most famous and difficult movies ever made, Apocalypse Now. Suddenly, this young teenager found himself deep in the jungles of the Philippines, working with a director who was a living legend, Francis Ford Coppola. For a kid starting out, it was an incredible opportunity, but it quickly turned into a nightmare. The problem started with one specific scene. Fishburne, who was just 14 or 15 at the time, was given dialogue that was sexually explicit. He was supposed to talk about things that, as a young boy, he had absolutely no real-life experience with. He was a child being asked to act like a man in the most uncomfortable way possible. He tried his best, but he could not make the lines sound believable because he had nothing to draw from in his own life. Francis Ford Coppola was a director famous for getting exactly what he wanted from his actors. But when faced with a child who could not deliver the performance, he did not show understanding or change the scene. Instead, he applied more and more pressure. He made the young Fishburne do the scene over and over and over again. Fishburne later remembered doing something like 40 takes of the same difficult lines. With each failed take, the pressure mounted. The boy could see the disappointment on the famous director's face. Fishburne said he felt really, really down and dejected. He felt like he was failing this great artist. The situation became so intense and upsetting that one of the film's biggest stars, Martin Sheen, noticed the young actor's distress. He saw what Coppola was putting the child through and knew he had to step in. Sheen pulled Fishburne aside and gave him some simple words of encouragement. He told the boy that he was a really good actor. For Fishburne, who felt like a complete failure at that moment, those words were everything. He later said that what Martin Sheen did for him in that moment saved his life. This was more than just a tough day on a movie set. This was a powerful adult director failing to protect a child actor in his care. The evil in this situation was Coppola's obsession with his own artistic vision, an obsession so strong that he was willing to damage a child's well-being to get it. He put a 14-year-old boy in an impossible position and made him feel worthless when he could not do what was asked. Gina Torres.
Growing up, you have all these dreams as an actress, right? And like, when is it? Like, when am I gonna get to the award show? Like, what's it gonna be? Little did I know it would be for a show that hasn't been on the air.
After navigating the treacherous world of Hollywood directors and producers, the deepest betrayal for Laurence Fishburne came from a place he never expected, his own home. For 15 years, he and actress Gina Torres were a true Hollywood power couple. They were respected, admired, and seemed to have a strong and loving marriage. They even worked together, playing a married couple on the television show Hannibal, which made their real-life bond seem even stronger to the public. They had a daughter together, Delilah, and their family appeared to be the picture of happiness. But behind the red carpet smiles, their love story was coming to an end. In the fall of 2016, the couple made the difficult decision to separate. They chose to keep this painful news private, away from the prying eyes of the media. They wanted to handle the end of their marriage with dignity and respect, especially for the sake of their daughter. For an entire year, they successfully kept their separation a secret. The world still saw them as a happily married couple. That all changed in a single, humiliating moment in September 2017. Out of nowhere, photos appeared online and in magazines for the entire world to see. The pictures showed Gina Torres passionately kissing another man. Because the public had no idea that she and Fishburne were separated, the story exploded. The immediate conclusion everyone drew was that Gina was cheating on her famous husband. It created a painful and embarrassing narrative that painted Laurence Fishburne as a victim, a man who had been publicly betrayed by his wife. The scandal forced Gina Torres to immediately release a public statement. She had to explain that she and Fishburne had been separated for a year. In her statement, she tried to smooth things over, saying there were no bad guys here and that it was only a love story with a different ending than they had expected. But the damage was done. The statement was not a planned mutual announcement made by two people who respected each other. It was a reaction. It was damage control that only happened because she had been caught with her new partner. The private, dignified end to their marriage that they had agreed upon was shattered. Just 2 months later, in November 2017, Laurence Fishburne officially filed for divorce. The timing was impossible to ignore. The public humiliation appeared to be the final straw. The evil here was not the end of the marriage itself, but the carelessness that destroyed their private agreement. Gina's actions, whether intentional or not, subjected Fishburne to a worldwide spectacle of shame and pity. She had turned their private love story with a different ending into cheap tabloid gossip, robbing him of his dignity during one of the most painful times in his life. It was a personal betrayal that was more public and perhaps more painful than any he had faced in his professional career. Laurence Fishburne's calm strength on screen is no accident. It is the hard-earned armor of a man who has fought and won battles most people never knew existed. From a director who twisted his principles into a story about ego, to a producer who broke a promise for a bigger star, to the creators who erased him from his own legacy, he faced down the worst of Hollywood's cruelty. He even endured the pain of public humiliation from his own family. These experiences did not break him. They forged him into the icon we know today, a true warrior who survived the very real evils of his world.